16 million active patents. Every single one of them just expired. At midnight, all at once. Every drug formula, every chip design, every engine schematic now belongs to everyone.
Follow the incentives. Every generic drug maker on Earth just became a billionaire overnight.
Every pharma stock just hit zero. Every tech stock just hit zero. I'm watching the entire S&P 500 disintegrate in real time.
Cool. My insulin still costs $300 until someone actually makes the cheap version.
Let's walk through this. Pharmaceuticals are the first domino. There are roughly 4,000 active drug patents in the US alone. They're gone. Anyone can make anything.
Somebody's getting rich off this. Day one, I'm calling every contract manufacturer in India, in Bangladesh, in Brazil. You can synthesize generic versions of the top 20 drugs in weeks, not months, weeks.
Okay, but who's doing quality control? Nobody stress tested this. You just open the floodgates on every formula simultaneously. There's no FDA pipeline for approving 10,000 generics at once.
So we go from drugs people can't afford to drugs that might kill them. Great upgrade.
Brick, you're missing the play. The infrastructure already exists. Indian pharmaceutical companies already make 70% of the world's generics. They've been waiting behind patent walls for decades. You drop the wall, they sprint.
They sprint into a world where Pfizer, Merck, Johnson & Johnson lose 40, 50, 60% of revenue in a quarter. Those companies fund half the drug trials on the planet, Slick. Who's paying for the next cancer drug? Who?
Oh no, the companies charging $800 for an EpiPen might have a bad quarter.
It's not about their feelings, it's about their R&D budgets.
Can both of you stop yelling? The guy making 40 grand a year just wants to know if his kid's asthma inhaler gets cheaper. That's the whole question.
And that's when it gets interesting. Short term, yes, drug prices crater. The top 100 most expensive medications become available as generics within 6 months. People who are rationing insulin, skipping cancer meds, they get access. That's real.
But long term, Bishop, I ran the numbers and we're cooked. Pharmaceutical R&D costs $2.6 billion per approved drug. If you eliminate the 20-year exclusivity window that funds that investment, who bankrolls the next generation of treatments?
Government grants. Crowdfunding. Venture capital pivots into open source drug development. The money finds a way, Glitch. It always does.
The money finds a way. That's your plan? That's a bumper sticker, not a healthcare system.
Brick's not wrong. But neither is Slick. The truth is, the current system already fails millions of people. The question isn't whether this disruption is clean, it's whether the chaos produces something better than what we had. Now zoom out. Pharmaceuticals are emotional, but technology patents? That's where the real earthquake hits. Apple holds over 80,000 patents. Samsung, over 170,000. Qualcomm's entire business model is licensing patents to everyone else.
Qualcomm is cooked. Absolutely cooked. Their licensing arm is like 40% of their revenue. That vanishes. But here's where the money is. Every small hardware startup in the world just got unlocked. You can build a phone using any chip architecture, any antenna design, any display technology.
Do you know how many cross-licensing agreements hold the entire tech industry together? Intel and AMD, Apple and Samsung, Google and Oracle. Those aren't just business deals, they're peace treaties. You just dissolved every peace treaty at the same time.
So it's Tech World War I. Cool.
No. It's the opposite. There's nothing to fight over. If every patent is public, there's no exclusivity to defend. It's not war, it's an arms bazaar. Everything's for sale and nothing costs anything.
You think that's better? Sleek. China can now legally manufacture exact replicas of every American chip design. TSMC's entire value proposition as the world's foundry just evaporates, because the designs they're protecting are now public domain.
That's a $1 trillion problem, and also a $1 trillion opportunity.
Stop saying opportunity when I'm describing collapse.
Can someone explain this to me like I build houses? Because that's what I actually understand.
Think of it this way, Brick. Imagine every proprietary construction technique, every patented fastener, every load-bearing design, every insulation formula suddenly became free to use. You could build a better house for less, but every company that spent decades developing those techniques just lost their competitive advantage.
So the guys who invented the good stuff stop inventing. Because why bother?
Exactly! That's a cascading failure. Innovation dries up because the incentive structure collapsed. The simulation says no.
Oh, right, because nobody innovated before the modern patent system. The entire history of human ingenuity was just people sitting around waiting for the Patent Act of 1790.
He has a point. The open-source software movement produced Linux, Wikipedia, most of the internet's infrastructure. No patents needed. The question is whether hardware and chemistry can follow the same model.
They can't. They can't. Software is infinitely copyable at zero marginal cost. A drug costs billions to develop and pennies to copy. That's the asymmetry that breaks everything.
Glitch, you've been saying everything's breaking for 10 minutes. I'm starting to think you enjoy it.
I do not enjoy it. I'm terrified. There's a difference.
Here's what everyone's missing. We've been talking about drugs and chips, but patents cover physical manufacturing. John Deere's tractor designs, Boeing's wing geometry, Tesla's battery architecture. Every competitive moat in the physical economy just drained overnight.
Let me pitch you something. Day one of Patent Zero, I'm launching a company that builds right-to-repair kits for every major piece of farm equipment. Every proprietary part John Deere ever locked behind a patent, open season. The smart money already moved.
Okay, that one I actually don't hate. Farmers have been getting destroyed by repair monopolies for years. If some guy in Iowa can finally fix his own tractor without paying John Deere 10 grand, that's a real win.
Sure, great, farmers can fix tractors, but Boeing's wing patents are also open. So now some startup in I don't know who cares where, is building airplanes using Boeing's designs without Boeing's institutional safety knowledge. And we're putting people in those planes.
That's what the FAA is for, Glitch. Certification still exists.
The FAA that was already overwhelmed before this? You're going to throw 10,000 new aircraft manufacturers at them simultaneously?
I'm not getting on that plane.
You're not getting on any plane, Brick. You drive a truck from 2006.
My truck works fine. That's the point.
Let's talk about Wall Street, because this is where the system truly convulses. Intellectual property represents roughly $5 trillion in corporate valuations on U.S. exchanges alone. When patents expire, that value doesn't transfer, it evaporates.
We're talking about a market crash that makes 2008 look like a rounding error. IP-heavy companies, pharma, tech, defense, biotech, they shed 50, 60, 70% of market cap in days. Pension funds holding those stocks get obliterated. Retirement accounts... Oh god, retirement accounts.
Sell the fear, buy the solution. You short every IP-heavy stock on day one and go long on contract manufacturers, generics companies, open hardware startups.
People's retirements are burning, and you're talking about your short positions.
Someone's got to be on the other side of the trade, Brick.
That's a rich people problem. The rest of us just watch our 401k disappear.
But here's the counterweight: medical devices. A hearing aid that costs $4,000? The patents on the core technology expire, and suddenly someone's 3D printing them in a garage for $80.
Oh, that's actually... Okay, that part is incredible. Prosthetic limbs, cochlear implants, insulin pumps. The designs become open, and communities start iterating on them faster than any single corporation ever could.
See? Glitch found his happy place. Took a while.
Don't celebrate. I'm still mostly terrified. The math doesn't math on the macro scale. Cool. So everything's on fire, but some of the fire is warm?
Some of the fire is warm. Put that on the poster.
The global shipping question is the one no one's asking. Every country's trade balance is built on IP exports. The US exports more intellectual property than physical goods. Europe's pharmaceutical trade surplus is built on patent exclusivity. You collapse patents globally, and trade agreements, every single one, need to be renegotiated.
I ran 17 scenarios. We died in all of them. The WTO dissolves. Trade wars go kinetic. Countries with manufacturing capacity win. Countries that lived on IP licensing, they're done.
So invest in countries with factories. Vietnam, Mexico, Bangladesh, that's the play.
Slick, not everything is a play. Some things are just bad.
And the legal system. Think about this. Every patent attorney, every IP court, every licensing department at every corporation, their entire function just became irrelevant. Hundreds of thousands of highly specialized jobs, gone. Not over years, overnight.
They pivot to trade secrets law, non-competes, first mover strategy consulting. I know a guy who'd hire every one of them.
You can't just pivot an entire legal specialization. That's like saying buggy whip manufacturers should just learn to code.
They probably should.
Brick!
What? I'm agreeing with the capitalism guy for once. Adapt or die. Isn't that how this works?
Here's what Patent Zero really asks us. We built a system where innovation is funded by exclusivity. You invent something, you get a temporary monopoly, and that monopoly pays for the next invention. It's not elegant, it's not fair, but it works, mostly. Collapse that system in a single night, and you get two things simultaneously: liberation and chaos. Cheap insulin and crashing pension funds. Open-source prosthetics and counterfeit aircraft parts. The same act that frees a farmer to fix his tractor destroys the incentive to build a better one. The real question was never about patents. It was about this. What do we owe to the future? If we optimize for access today, we risk starving tomorrow's breakthroughs. If we protect tomorrow's innovators, we let people suffer today behind walls they can't climb. Every patent is a bet. A bet that temporary restriction creates permanent progress. Patent Zero calls that bet. And the answer is, we don't know. Nobody knows. Because the system was never designed to be tested all at once. But now you're thinking about it. And thinking about it means you're already 3 moves ahead of everyone who assumed the walls would hold forever. The pattern here is clear. The walls always come down. The only question is whether you built something that survives without them. Checkmate.